Hey everyone, hopefully you had a safe and happy holiday and a happy New Year's. So the topic for this tutorial will be how to take care of hangovers. You'll see a bunch of different treatment plans online. I've reviewed a couple, kind of silly, and I've reviewed a couple others, kind of practical. So we'll go through it now. So I've broken it down into three different things. The first thing will be pre-hydration, not dehydration, pre-hydration. So I think the biggest problem with alcohol is that it's a diuretic. That means when you take alcohol in, it makes you pee. Even if you don't pee, that's not a good sign because you probably are dehydrated to begin with, but it'll still dehydrate every cell in your body. And the cells in your body, muscle-wise, cramps, weakness, not a big deal. But the cells up here, if they're dehydrated, not happy. Headaches, tension headaches, vascular gets pulled on, migraines. So, pre-hydration. So what do I mean by pre-hydration? Number one, you got to be doing a lot of fluids beforehand. That would be practical, but we don't usually know how much to take beforehand. So I've put down a couple things that you might want to do as you drink. And one of the things you should do is figure out how much you usually pee. So I think most women that have urinary tract infections, they have to pee in this cup. Most men that have to give drug tests have to pee in a cup. So if you know over the course of your usual sit down or stand up pee how long it takes to pee and how much you fill up, then you'll know that every time you go pee, you have to drink that volume. So this little pee cup is about 100 ml. An average 12-ounce bottle or can is about 500 ml. So again, if you just want to wing it, every time you pee, take about a mug full of water. It might sound silly, but I do think that if you, and the water will actually make you pee as well, but it'll still keep you on the plus side as far as hydration. So if you can keep up with your trips to the restroom, great, all night long, including after you finish your drinking and your partying for about 3 or 4 hours. What I like to do is, I think that when we pee, the kidneys work overtime to make us pee and you lose sodium and potassium. So that's why I like, if you're going to hydrate, try to hydrate with something that has high sodium amounts in it. So Airborne, you'll find over the counter. It's what the teachers use when they're getting sick. They drop 2 fizz tabs in a bottle of water and it fizzes up. It has homeopathic components in it. So whether they work or not, I'm not sure, but fizz tabs usually are high in sodium and they give you flavor, so you're going to find it hard to keep on downing fluid. Sometimes when you put a little cherry flavor into it, and they come in different flavors, it'll make it a little more palatable. Or I like Pellegrino. I think this tastes great. It reminds me of soda. I don't drink soda anymore, but this has high sodium in it too. And yes, you're told if you're a high blood pressure patient not to drink too much salt, but listen, for one night, I think it's reasonable. But if you're a high blood pressure patient, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol either. Hydrate or pre-hydrate. Every time you pee, you have to hydrate before you go for finishing off your bottle. And the fluid if you happen to have like a vodka, water, or I don't know how those drinks are made, but if there's water and alcohol together, that water doesn't count. That mixed together is your alcohol. The pee that I'm talking about, volume-wise, is separate, and the fluid that you take to equal the pee that you just gave to the toilet is also separate than the water in your drink or the ice cubes in your drink. So keep that straight. The other thing to do is, as you're drinking, sometimes the alcohol will slow down its effects when you eat. So it dilutes the alcohol a little bit if you eat and drink at the same time. And it's safer if you want to drive. You're supposed to have 1 drink per hour if you acetylate properly. Now, women and some people of Asian descent will acetylate differently, so their livers work differently, and they might get drunker faster. I just made up a word, but so everybody paces themselves, but typically a drink an hour is safe. Some people fall below, some people fall above that. Just be careful. So eating food also. But obviously if you're using alcohol to kind of lose your inhibition, the food that you eat is not going to allow you to lose your inhibition if you're kind of shy. And if you are, you probably should see a therapist. But using alcohol or marijuana for that is a temporary fix and not the way you're supposed to do it. So we'll get to, and the other thing I would also suggest is a wingman. Sometimes when you have alcohol and you start to become a little bit relaxed with your guard, a wingman can keep an eye on you that's designated driver or friend, can keep an eye on you as far as how much you're drinking. Because sometimes when you lose your counting ability, you might forget how much you had to drink. And then you're going to forget, did I pee? Should I drink? Should I have another shot to take care of the other shot that I just peed off? So be careful. Have a wingman, pace yourself, eat, drink fluids. And again, alcohol's effects continue on after you've finished your party. So at least 3 to 4 hours afterward, it's important to continue with your hydration state. That would be the next morning. So next, and that's where this next part comes up is, I'll term that as 1B, sleep. Sleep is very important. And obviously if you're drinking and you're having a great time with New Year's, you're probably going to stay out late. And if you stay out late, you're going to be going to sleep late. If you go to sleep late and then you're exposed to sun or you have to drive home from some party, it's going to be early morning, you've just truncated your sleep hours. And another reason to have headache would be lack of sleep. If you wake up when you're not supposed to or not usually going to wake up, or you wake up and your brain says, wait, I got to sleep more, not only are you still probably inebriated, be careful, but you're also lacking sleep. So you have two reasons. The Exxon Valdez was that tanker that had one of the biggest oil spills in the world. Well, it was because the Exxon Valdez captain fell asleep supposedly. So sleeping accounts, or being sleepy and driving accounts for a large amount of motor vehicle accidents and catastrophes. So be careful, please. A lack of sleep will make your judgment impaired. Lack of sleep will also get you into accidents. Lack of sleep will also give you headaches, which will be number 2. Number 2 on what we're talking about here today is the side effects of alcohol or inebriation. So dehydration is one of the side effects. I told you what to do with that. Upset stomach is another. So usually if you have an upset, actually let's talk about vomiting first. Vomiting, it's difficult. Some people are very sensitive and they vomit after a night out. If they continue to vomit, then you have 2 reasons for dehydration. One would be peeing, another would be vomiting up your fluids. So it would be important to stop the vomiting. There's something of, this is a homeopathic pellet. Homeopathic pellets are very, very useful with regards to, this is a pharmacopoeia for homeopathy. It's a different branch of healing, and it does work if used properly. So homeopathic doctors have to take a full, you can't do the shortcut by just looking up the diagnosis or the symptoms and taking the pellet that the cookbook says. You really have to have treatment from a well-versed homeopathy doctor. But Nux vomica at about 6C, that's the strength on the side of the little thing. These are very small pellets. I'm not going to get into the how homeopathy works, but usually about 5 pellets every hour will help with the nausea and vomiting. And if you can't really overdose on that, number one. A child can actually take it. I'm not suggesting a child does do that, and a child shouldn't be drinking anyway. But doing that about 5 pellets every hour of that strength, 6C, usually will get you to the point of calming down that vomit reflex. It works great. If you can't get responsive to that, or don't get responsive to that, there is a prescription. Prescription is Zofran. I don't have a copy or a sample of Zofran, but Zofran is so good. You use it for kids with chemotherapy and vomiting. It comes in tablets where you swallow. It also comes in melt-in-the-mouth tablets. Fantastic. 4 or 8 milligrams, usually under the tongue or swallowed 3 times a day, will knock out vomiting. You can actually give it to moms, pregnant moms, when they go through hyperemesis gravidarum, vomiting of pregnancy. and it's safe, but I think some OBs don't like to do that. Definitely if you have a vomiting issue from alcohol over ingestion, it would be good to have that on hand if you're going to a wedding or for New Year's, if you're lucky enough for your doctor to give it to you. If you can't and the Nux vomica doesn't work and you happen to have an acupuncturist handy, these are acupuncture needles, and well-placed acupuncture needles can help with regards to nausea, vomiting. There's also ear pellets. If you have a friend that does that, you can do ear pellets to the ear, stimulate them, and it helps with the vomit reflex as well. This is acupuncture. It's traditional Chinese medicine. It might be difficult to find somebody in your area, but if you have a chiropractor or an licensed acupuncturist that does practice, you might want to see them beforehand. There's also, if you can't find that, then you have other things available. I like lavender. That's aromatherapy. Lavender or peppermint oil, either put on the right spots or diffused in the room, will make you also calm and relax. So it is a useful thing. If you can't do that, if you can't find an acupuncturist, if you've hydrated enough, then we'll just tackle the symptoms. So Zofran from your doctor. If you can't get a doctor, then you can pick up Pepcid over the counter. Pepcid helps decrease the irritation to the stomach. Gastric upset, especially after alcohol, it irritates the lining of the stomach. And sometimes when you already have an irritated stomach, even if you take omeprazole, Prilosec, Pepcid decreases stomach acid and it tightens up the lower esophageal sphincter so you don't get the fluid contents or the stomach contents coming back up. Usually I'll suggest 40 milligrams twice a day of Pepcid. That's famotidine. 40 milligrams is prescription. If you can't, again, find a doctor to give you Zofran, then you can pick up enough of the over-the-counters. Over-the-counters come in, these are 20 milligram tablets, so you can do 2 of these twice a day. Sometimes Tums also helps calm down the stomach acid, but this causes a rebound hyperacidity because it's so alkaline. I'd rather have you take DGL. Chewable DGL helps with, you can get this in the pharmacy over the counter. You can also get chewable DGL in your local herb shop. Both of them help to calm the stomach down and coat the stomach if it's irritated from too much alcohol. And then the idea would come as far as the irritated alcohol or the irritated stomach, what do you feed your stomach? Because I do think that all that sugar, alcohol is sugar, and all that sugar you took in last night, in addition to the probably bad carbs, will probably drain the body from all the massive amounts of insulin that you secreted to match the carbohydrate load you took. I think that the brain will also have an upset or a headache from lack of fuel. So there are some people in the keto camp who would say that if you take in fat, it might help the brain assimilate more fuel if you're not able to take any fluid in. But then again, you have to be careful because some of the fat that you might be looking for or craving will make you vomit more. So this is hemp oil, which has it's vegetarian. It has a high amount of DHA, helps calm the brain, but the smell of hemp oil might make you vomit. So sometimes you can put in your coffee. Coffee, though, is an issue because it does help with giving you caffeine, which might help a headache, but it upsets the stomach because it irritates the lining. So the caffeine in the coffee and the coffee bean is an irritant. You have to be careful with that. I'd rather have you take green tea, which is what I use. I like Gyokuru, or sometimes I'll use Sencha, and it's calming. It's not so irritating. It's got a little bit of caffeine in it. This is sunflower butter, or you can do a nut butter of your own if you're of the keto camp. Sometimes a fat bomb will also help you get that fuel source in without upsetting the stomach too much or giving you too much of an insulin spike again. Other things you have to be careful of with regards to inebriation or drinking too much, headaches. Headaches, if you're going to have one, try to avoid Advil, go more for Tylenol. Try to avoid Tylenol because it goes through the liver, and go more for Advil. The only problem with Advil is that it doesn't necessarily go through the liver because the liver is already going to be busy with trying to get rid of the alcohol. The Advil will upset the stomach a little bit. So hopefully the Pepcid will control the upset stomach, but it'll take care of headache, it'll take care of fever, hopefully it won't upset the stomach too much. Perfect. Tylenol, although it takes care of aches and pains and headache, has to go through the liver, so that means you're going to bother the liver even further. If you can get magnesium spray, you can actually just spray it on some points, put it up here, and this will help a little bit with your headache, and you can't really overdose on magnesium spray. Magnesium pills, you can try them, but again, if we're trying to avoid the upset stomach part, you might take a magnesium pill and it might cause a problem with upset stomach coming back. Then comes the diarrhea that follows. So magnesium is a good segue because magnesium, if overdosed orally, will cause diarrhea. For the diarrhea issues, well, you might want to stick to a BRAT diet for the time period that you're having vomiting and or diarrhea. That's bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. Something very simple, just for fuel source. That's what we usually suggest for our kids that are having vomiting or diarrhea, regardless of the reason. So that's about 24 hours of just doing a BRAT diet to allow the gut to kind of calm down. Or those of you who fast, just don't do anything. Just try to avoid all food intake and just do liquids if you can, at least for 24 hours. Sometimes bowel rest for 24 hours allows the bowel, the digestive system, to reestablish a good coating, a good tolerance to take on more food. Also frees up a lot of energy if those of you who didn't get any sleep. I still suggest that you hydrate as much as possible. So hydration with fluids usually doesn't upset the fasting thing, but we don't have to talk about fasting. I'm just mentioning those of you who fast. If you do have persistent diarrhea, Imodium's nice. If you still have diarrhea after that, and the Pepcid's not helping, and the Tums is not helping, and all this other stuff isn't helping, then you can ask your doctor for Lomotil. That has a narcotic in it. That will stop everything. But the narcotic in it, in addition to your alcohol the night before, you gotta be careful. So finally, there's also the recovery phase. So having said all this stuff, the recovery phase would be the following 2 to 3 to 4 days. Milk thistle is a great herb that helps the liver rebuild faster. But honestly, so it won't hurt. But honestly, avoiding Tylenol, avoiding further alcohol, avoiding very highly processed foods, avoiding excessive amounts of exercise or endurance, avoiding a lot of processing from the brain would be your biggest choices, and eating a well-balanced whole food diet once you get past 24 hours. So whether you do milk thistle and a whole food, mostly plant, if you can make it, diet, it's up to you. But usually by the 3rd day out from New Year's or January 3rd, most people are doing okay. If not, then you really have to visit your doctor, decide on what's going on before you go back into your routine. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of what to do. And then maybe if you can do all this stuff next time, or just realize that you might be a little super sensitive to alcohol and watch yourself, I think it'll help us in the long run.